Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters PyeongChang, as we are here live from South Korea, bringing you all the StarCraft action that you need as we continue down the bracket here in the lead-up to the Olympic Winter Games. Obviously, very important moment for a lot of these players coming into the round of 16, with some already eliminated and some already finding themselves a round of 8 spot. Gentlemen, to my left, I have Rotterdam and I have Nathanius here. Nathanius being able to kind of watch how Time was able to try and persevere over Scarlet, I should say. Not exactly the easiest time for him.
No, he definitely had a rough time, and I think that's just
It's
one of the.
impossible.
It's a facet of the round of 16 of a tournament like this. You have great talent, but some of these regions have players who are just a cut above the ones that win these championships around the world. And we get to see those slight mismatches, those chances for the upsets. We saw that in Specials series earlier today, but the tried and true favorites have been holding strong. They've been playing very well, and all credit to Time, but it was a marvelously played series by Scarlet.
Yeah, Scarlet's just kind of leveled up especially in the recent months, right? Where she now is round of 16 GSL. Now here moving on quite confidently.
Yeah, it's funny because he had all the hype also going into Leipzig though, and there it didn't really go her way. As Sue mentioned as well in the interviews, he dropped out in the round of 32, and a lot of people were quite disappointed. It's like, GSL round of 16. But I don't think we should look too much into that. Everybody has tough tournaments, and those European ZVZs, they are scary for anybody. He's got perhaps one of those waiting in the next round. But the way he played today, it's awesome. Very excellent performance.
Yeah, great stuff by Scarlet, of course. And now that brings us nicely on to our next game that we're going to have here on the main stage. And it's a bit of a switcheroo from a TVZ, as we will have a TVT kicking things off here. And it's two big names, to be fair, when it comes to the international scene.
Oh yeah, I mean this matchup, looking at it today, Kelazhur and HeRoMaRiNE are two extremely good players, and they've both had their fair bit of hype over the course of the last year, especially from the performances at the end of 2017. Kelazhur had an amazing year.
Yeah, definitely did. When it came to the WCS results, Roddy, that Kelazhur was able to post, very, very impressive stuff for him, who, you know, when coming into that year, Kelazhur wasn't exactly a name that you're like, top 8, top 8, top 8, but there you go.
In the beginning of 2017, Kelazhur was considered to be one of the better Terrans outside of Korea, but absolutely not top-notch. Everybody always thought, we can name 5 European Terrans that are better than this young man. At the end of 2017, absolutely not the case. Even the best European Terran said, I'm not as good as Kelazhur right now. If you talk about a breakthrough year, 2017 was absolutely his breakthrough year, as he's been around a lot, and he's been, like, you know, steadily improving over the years. The way that he improved in 2017 was phenomenal.
Yeah, Kelazhur has been a treat to watch, and he's a player that I've had the pleasure of talking to a lot at these tournaments. I would consider him a friend of mine, and I love watching him play. He's got a very tenacious play style, and he's got a heart of gold. He's a great guy to talk to. He's just an awesome all-around competitive player.
Yeah, to put it very simple, if in like the previous years from 2013 to 2014 he got like 1 level up, in 2014, 2015 he did a 1 level up. I think last year he did like a triple level up. I don't know where he found all those +1s, but he kept going. He kept
He's
going
racking up
James.
that EXP, man.
That's right. That StarCraft EXP. Kelazhur's got a lot of it. Of course, he is our Brazilian representative coming into this series. And, you know, he's had success when it came to, you know, the WCS circuit. He even came over to Korea and gave our Koreans a damn good go at it. I think taking the only map during that particular series.
There was a show match in the middle of, sort of in the summer of 2017, GSL versus the World it was called, and there was only one man that took a series for the World, and that was Kelazhur, in a pretty amazing game, a memorable game versus TY.
Definitely. Very, very memorable indeed. Of course, on the other side of the battlefield, his opponent, another Terran to speak of, normally representing Germany, but this time will be representing Italy, as he is dual citizenship, was born there, I believe, Mr. Gabriel Segat, and HeRoMaRiNE himself, in the European scene, has gone from leaps and strides and bounds.
Yeah, he's been looking pretty hot recently. We had a lot of conversations about it when we went into Leipzig, and he looked very good at the start of the tournament. His first few matches, he had a couple really good TVTs, but he's a player that is still very young, that still gets hyped up a lot, and is a dominant force in the European Terran scene.
Yeah, HeRoMaRiNE just has a great story because he is still young, but he's been around since day 1 of StarCraft 2. Since 2010, this young man has been competing in tournaments. Even in Warcraft 3 he was around. He was like 9 or 10 years old back then. It's amazing. His career is interesting though, because I wouldn't say that 20 2017 was a breakout year for HeRoMaRiNE. I think if anything, 2016 perhaps was a better year for him, where he had an amazing semi-finals appearance at one of the big events back then in Montreal.
That's true.
Yep.
2017 wasn't bad though, and every now and then when we had tournaments where the Koreans were dominating everybody, I'm thinking back of a Home Cup, there was one strong German, Italian man holding down the fort, and that was HeRoMaRiNE. So he has shown before that he can absolutely perform when it matters.
Yeah, he's a player that has grown up with StarCraft 2,
Yes.
for sure. I remember back at the very beginning of StarCraft 2 where I did an interview with Mr. HeRoMaRiNE, and he didn't even know that much English. So it was quite a difficult interview to get through, but now his English is phenomenal. He's grown with StarCraft 2, he's matured with StarCraft 2. Phenomenal player.
He's been playing StarCraft 2 probably for close to 40% of his entire life.
Yes.
That is an amazing statistic.
That's a lot of StarCraft to play.
Yes. And he plays a lot of games as well.
He's got the skill to show for it, and I think that makes this a really awesome matchup to look forward to.
I mean, let's talk about TVT in the matchup that we haven't seen on this main stage just yet. What are you expecting to come out from something like a Terran versus Terran? It's changed a lot, especially with our Cyclone adaptations.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it also just very recently had a big shift with the re-addition of the auto turret for the Raven as one of the tools that can help shut down some of the Cyclone madness that's kind of taken over the matchup in terms of defensive tools. But TVT, I know that Kelazhur is a player who likes to be aggressive, and I do anticipate that these two players will try to veer away from the Cyclone madness too much at the start of these games. But it's dynamic. I think mech focus has become more and more of a thing because you have the tools in the early game with the Cyclone to defend and the Raven. But it's exciting. I enjoy watching it. You see, I look forward to seeing a lot of usage of the Raven's specific abilities to shut down defensive tools like siege tanks or drops.
How about you, Roddy? What do you think about this matchup?
I just think it's a fun clash of styles as well, as these two are obviously not players that run into each other all the time. Historically, they've only went up against each other once, and that was in the beginning of 2017. Kelazhur spends a lot of his time either in California or in Asia, where he plays on the Korean server. So these two simply don't meet that much. Obviously, everything that Nate said is super accurate. Recently, we had a big patch again in StarCraft 2. Cyclones are probably still going to be quite common, especially in the early phase. But I don't know, like if this is middle of 2017, I think everybody leans towards Kelazhur. But Kelazhur had a disappointing showing just a few weeks ago in Leipzig, while HeRoMaRiNE had a pretty damn good showing. I mean, he only lost against Neep, and we all know there is no shame in losing against Neep. So I think right now this is very close and very tough to call.
Yeah.
Completely agree with Kev. Almost everybody lost to Neeb last year. So that's, you can't feel bad. Drop the maps to him. HeRoMaRiNE looked really good. And as a big fan of Kelazhur, this series, I will give like maybe a 5% edge to HeRoMaRiNE. I think this is a really close match.
Okay.
I don't think that there's an easy favorite to call. Just HeRoMaRiNE's more recent form is good, but I still think Diego's got it in him.
But that's funny, right, how StarCraft goes, because throughout 2017, we've been talking about Kelazhur for almost the entirety of the year, and we've been so impressed with him. Yet here we are, 2018, only the second month of the year, and we're like, oh, give a slight edge to HeRoMaRiNE. But that's just how it goes in StarCraft. We haven't seen that much of Kelazhur since his amazing run last year, where he made it to the global finals. And then the one thing we did saw was Leipzig. Yeah, and then it's hard to favor him here. I mean, 3-4 months in StarCraft, that's an eternity.
Right. I mean, looking at these two players in general, I've asked this about a lot of the players that are actually here in the tournament, but who has the better prospects in this tournament? Say they were to go on, kind of advance from this round. Obviously, their side of the bracket could be a little bit tricky against some players.
I actually like Kelazhur in the long run because the thing for him that stood out to me last year wasn't just like his variety in playstyles or his micro or his macro. He does have a little bit of this X factor ability to make snap calls and make good plays in crazy situations. And I see HeRoMaRiNE as a stable player who's good, but I don't see him as the guy that's going to pull out a miracle play when it counts the most. He's just going to play very well, very methodically, be difficult to beat. But I don't know that he's going to be the player to upset one of the Koreans we have here.
Short thoughts, Roddy?
I think we should focus one matchup at a time. If HeRoMaRiNE would advance here, so I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, you know, just to agree for the sake of disagreeing. But I mean, next round is a Protoss guaranteed, and I actually think HeRoMaRiNE looked good against Neep. I know that he dropped out against Neep in Leipzig, but he should have won Game 4 100%, and I think even in Game 3 there was a lot of potential. And throughout last year, a couple of great series that HeRoMaRiNE had against Zest multiple times in German tournaments or Home Cup. So I'm just going to go with HeRoMarinE there, but I mean, both these guys are very evenly matched.
All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts going into this TVT. It's time for me to take another stroll. Somebody's going to put a banana peel here eventually, and I'm going to go flying, but it's going to be great. I have our Tosis here, and we have Pig to bring us this Terran versus Terran. Gentlemen, this is going to be a good one. Two very formidable opponents.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit hard to predict. You know, these guys kind of going back and forth a little bit. I mean, personally, Pig, I don't know about you. I'm leaning towards Kelazhur here.
You know, it's crazy because I kind of agree with what they were saying. You know, it's like, yeah, recent form HeRoMarinE, but Kelazhur has always kind of had that flair, right? He does those kind of wild maneuvers when he's kind of down and out, and he kind of pulls it back a bit. So I think in terms of just that, like, edge, I think I'm kind of tending towards Kelazhur as well.
Someone like, you know, HeRoMarinE is usually an aggressive guy at least, but Kelazhur, I think, can mix in that kind of player as well, right? He's a very much so an all-rounder, especially as they were mentioning at the desk. Someone in the last year who's just come on in so many avenues of his play.
No, it's certainly the case. Like, Kelazhur has a full range of play. I wouldn't say that HeRoMarinE doesn't have that, but one of the interesting things that I find about StarCraft 2 is the different regions have different strengths. For instance, HeRoMarinE, being a European, the European server where everyone practices is known so much for its heavy Zerg players. It's got so many top-end Zergs. So if you play over there, that's going to be one of the matchups where you're really kind of excelling. And if you're going to be a top player, you got to be good against Zerg. Whereas Kelazhur is so often playing with the Koreans, and the top of the Korean scene, we're known over here for the Terran players.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen, as we're about to start our TVT to get into it as Brazil goes up against Italy for the Intel Extreme Masters PyeongChang.
And here we go. It is going to be Italy up against Brazil. A big Terran versus Terran match. The first Terran versus Terran we've had today on the main stream. A matchup which I love. How are you feeling for this one, Dan?
I'm feeling great. I mean, I think these two are a very good match for each other. I do give the slight edge to this man right here, Kelazhur. He has been coming up so strongly. The best Brazilian player that we have seen in StarCraft 2. Just so many good TVT games out of him, but he's had a hard time because of the strength of the Terrans. He always has to play against people like Special, as well as the top Korean players.
Oh yeah, he's had some TVT matches like in big LAN events, but also in online events, playing against the likes of TY and Innovation. And I've always been, you know, kind of a big fan of Kelazhur, and I love watching those matches. And he often sneaks a game here and there, but it's very hard for him to close out a best of 3 or best of 5 against the absolute best Terran in the world at the time, whoever that may be. But I feel like he's kind of been this steady trajectory of success, right? If you think back, 2015, he was first coming up. He was showing some elements of like, hey, this guy looks kind of promising. 2016, he would often joke saying, hey, I'm the round of 32 guy. I make it to every event, and I go out in the round of 32, and I leave without that many WCS points, without that much prize money. But I feel like it's always been up. He's had little dips on the way, but it's always been up, and he's got a lot further to go.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we can say some similar things about HeRoMarinE, but the only way to figure out who is going to take this is to play it out. So it is time now on a Biogenesis. In the top left, our Brazilian Terran. In the blue, it's Kelazhur.
And his opponent down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, in the red, representing Italy, it is HeRoMarinE. You know, if I think about HeRoMarinE, he always does strike me as the sort of player who I think did come up with a lot of very standard play and like really wanted to work on his mechanics and his execution. But he has been adding in a bit more diversity, especially I think in the last year or two. And I think, speaking of diversity, I mean, this has got to be the map where you've got to have a special trick up your sleeve, right?
Sure, absolutely. Speaking of diversity again, I mean, just look at the layout of players in this tournament. 16 countries represented in IEM PyeongChang. I mean, this is a fabulous tournament for many reasons, that being one of them.
Indeed. I mean, this is going to be one of the first times we actually see this map not being vetoed here. So it's going to be very exciting. Sometimes we do get the players playing veto chicken over, you know, oh, you're going to take that map out. That's the weird map, and neither of them ends up taking it out. Now, of course, we haven't seen a lot of a Biogenesis. It is the rush map. It's a very short distance. There's a lot of very interesting ledges. So here in Terran vs. Terran, there's a lot of nasty angles where you can siege up tanks kind of on the low ground, around that area, hit the command center from down there, maybe zone out a gas. So it's definitely a map that's going to tend towards the aggression, and both players knowing that, opting for the double gas openings. We're going to see very fast cyclones out for safety.
And I got to say, I just love both of them kind of showing their colors to start out here. HeRoMaRiNE sitting in his main base with that Reaper. See that Reaper just going back and forth right there? This is a very defensive play. If Kelazhur had gone for, let's say, some barracks up close to his base, if he was trying to get really aggressive and that Reaper went out to scout, he'd be in trouble. So both these guys kind of giving the nod towards aggression and being careful about it.
I'm going to have a little bit of that split screen view there. We've got that first person view of Kelazhur on the right-hand side of our screen. And he is a very fast player and a player who loves this unit. He used to play a lot of 3-Rax Reaper back in the day.
Oh man, and look at this. He is getting in when the Reapers are not home for his opponent. He kills the SCV that is making the command center there, so that'll be slowed down. Getting some damage done as well. Almost kills the Cyclone here. HeRoMaRiNE does of Kelazhur.
Oh, nice strat mass repair there. Does dodge the Reaper grenade, but is losing his Reapers back at home at the same time. He does realize that he's going to take the edge in that fight, and he barely hangs on. His Cyclone just manages to defend, and 6 workers have gone down at home. These 2 Reapers just taking advantage of, obviously the workers don't have a ranged attack. They're very slow, and the micro and multitasking from Kelazhur stands strong.
That was fantastic. The fact that he got the mass repair off and then also microed his Reapers in such a way that he's done this much damage. Look, he chases away this SCV once again. Oh man, that was a lot of damage. To lose 8 SCVs this early is huge. That is game-changing.
Interesting enough, Kelazhur was thinking about going Banshees behind this. He does end up canceling that and building another reactor instead. And he's just going to take his own expansion. But he's looking for some counter-aggression right now. 2 Cyclones versus 3. Auto turret does go down. And a great retreat there from Kelazhur. He can repair that Cyclone back up to full hit points. Very nice start to things for our Brazilian player.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm just so impressed with how he's played this so far, with all this damage being done, the more aggressive opening. HeRoMaRiNE trying to get back on course, though. He's going to finish up that command center. He will have his first expansion up sooner, but with the amount of SCVs that he lost, he is behind economically in this game.
Yeah, Kelazhur using that extra mining, going to add a 3rd command center now. And you know, I like the choice of Kelazhur as well to skip on the Banshees. He did, I believe, scout the fast engineering bay with his Reapers earlier. So he said, you know what, you're probably going to build turrets anyway. You're going to have plenty of Cyclones. Let's just focus on expanding, getting the economic advantage. But now we do see Gabriel, HeRoMaRiNE coming in with a 5 Cyclone counterattack. Kelazhur only having 3 of his own, 1 Cyclone already falling. He wasn't expecting this at all.
Yeah, this is a big move right here. He does force him back before that command center gets completely killed off. Can he save it? Only a couple of Cyclones here. The other one's coming down the ramp now, pulling his SCVs. Great micro, pulling back one of his Cyclones. So it looks like Kelazhur will hold for now.
Clutch micro there from Diego. Just barely saves that Cyclone. That's twice this game he's kept a Cyclone alive on red hit points, but Gabriel, he's not given up yet. HeRoMaRiNE is just still on mass Cyclone production. We haven't seen a 3rd command center or armories because his natural was so delayed. So he's just like, you know what, I'm just going to keep building Cyclones and I'm going to hope to find an edge with that big unit advantage. If Diego underestimates this, he could get overrun.
Yeah, it is definitely the case. And let's not forget, he did lose a few SCVs there and everything. His command center got slowed down a little bit. He's had to do some repairing of his own. So, you know, part of that deficit that HeRoMaRiNE was in is no longer there. This is a good job so far trying to fight back.
Oh, a Cyclone goes down for free. HeRoMaRiNE can't afford losses like that right now. And, I mean, he's basically all in on Cyclones, but Diego, he's matching it, man. He's got a 2nd factory on the way. It looks like Mech will be the choice for Kelazhur as the follow-up.
Yeah, not a big surprise right there. Oh!
Anti-armor missile! That is massive. Those Cyclones cannot fight right now.
No, well, they're coming up as the SCVs get pulled. Of course, they're taking a lot of damage here, but they are going to be able to go ahead and clean up everything Kelazhur has here. A huge moment for HeRoMarinE.
I think Kelazhur getting a little bit excited there. Yeah, you can't fight into an SCV shield like that. He tried to focus fire behind it, but wasn't quite able to get in there. Those SCVs were blocking the movement, so his Cyclones ended up just kind of butting against them and not fighting. So now suddenly Kelazhur is like, whoa, I'm down heaps in army supply. What's he doing? He's got to get behind there. He's going to have to pull a lot of SCVs. This is HeRoMarine's chance to get back in this game.
Well, maybe not just back in it, but maybe win it as well. The SCV's getting pulled out here, and they will be picked off so quickly. The damage output of this many Cyclones, too much to deal with right now.
Massive damage going down. The bunker does fall. These Cyclones being pulled back very well. A Desperation Marauder being added in here for Kelazhur. Does manage to hold on with 15 worker losses. And look at the worker count, Dan.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's all even now on these workers. That third command center coming up for HeRoMarinE right now. Kelazhur had already finished his, but he doesn't have it landed yet, so he's not gaining that much of an advantage out of it.
I think Kelazhur has to be a little bit annoyed at letting that one slip away. He had such a solid advantage, and he just needed to sit back. But I think seeing himself land the anti-armor missile, he just got a little bit ahead of himself, realizing that because of the Cyclone's fast attack rate and low damage, if you can engage during that anti-armor reduction, it effectively doubles your Cyclone's damage output. But of course, HeRoMarinE counteracted that by pulling those workers to the front of the fight and did manage to neutralize it. So Kelazhur overcommitting, finds himself back in a game which is very much reset.
Yeah, you know, it's such a great thing. It's showing one of the beautiful aspects, one of the many beautiful aspects of StarCraft 2. He had that technology advantage, but just great tactics from HeRoMarinE to stay alive. And you see HeRoMarinE continuing, trying to poke around, seeing if there's any weak spots. But it seems like Kelazhur is pretty well defended now.
Yeah, starting to go into siege tank production, of course. That's the point where, as those siege tanks grow in number, Cyclones not nearly as effective, but these Cyclones saying, you know what, I know I've got the mobility advantage right now. I'm going to come up here and deny this base. They will get cut off if they stay there too long, though.
Oh, coming in, but nice pull back there. The two siege tanks will cover the Cyclones of Kelazhur and force everything out. Kelazhur getting a couple Hellions by. Let's see what type of damage he can get at this third base of HeRoMarinE.
Well, unfortunately, does focus on Mule that was about to run out anyway. Of course, no way to know that for Diego. Does snipe down a few more SCVs. A little bit of damage, not really worth it in the end there. But nice to see Kelazhur trying to branch out and get a little bit of damage done. I think the real interesting thing about this game is the lack of upgrades. Only now, at the 10-minute mark, are we seeing the +1 weapon start for Kelazhur. Nothing on the way for HeRoMarinE. Oh, his +1 starting up almost identically, actually, just a few seconds later. So both players are starting to head in that direction, but for now, the siege tank advantage goes to Kelazhur.
Oh, like two ships passing in the night here. The armies go by each other, and HeRoMarinE spots this incoming, but is still going to go for his attack.
Oh, but Kelazhur's moving down for a very slow push. He doesn't realize the army's on his side of the map. And HeRoMarinE, he knows the situation he's in. He's going for the throat. He finds the siege tank at the ramp, snipes it down. If he can get on top of these SCVs, and oh man, the entire natural's been eradicated. The third base being overrun as well. HeRoMarinE with a masterful reaction to this situation.
This was just awesome from HeRoMarinE, seeing that his opponent's army was out of position. He goes for the throat. Kelazhur now moving in as well, but it might be too little too late. The SCVs swarming in, trying to get the kills, but Hellions coming up and saving those siege tanks.
Whoa, I think Kelazhur may have been able to hold on to his production back at home. Indeed, he has, but he's lost his natural command center to the Cyclone lock-ons. At the same time, it looks like HeRoMarinE stabilized. Both players reset to exactly 20 workers apiece. Once again, this game has devolved into pure chaos, and now it's about who can make the quickest decisions in this scrappy situation. Both players have very little to work with. They have to be extremely efficient.
And this is where you have to get very creative as a StarCraft player. When games get like this, every game is a snowflake. They are so unique, so different, that you just have to figure out, okay, what do I have? What does he have? How can I get ahead? How can I abuse his position?
And here we see HeRoMarinE coming back. He wants to break this contain. He's going to go for it. He's going to try and jump out there. The Hellions tanking very well on that north side. Good siege tank fire from Kelazhur, though. Takes down all the Cyclones on the north, but it looks like HeRoMarinE will be able to break out.
HeRoMarinE right now lacking by 6 workers, but If I'm not mistaken, he has that extra command center, so should be able to catch up in that way. But Kelazhur, he's still doing all right. He's got a big, strong army in comparison.
Yeah, that army advantage looking very nice for Kelazhur right now. Hellions and tanks rotating down the south side of the map. Hellion does go in and get blasted. He's bringing a barracks as a spotting unit. Very creative and clever usage there to try and give him a bit of vision, maybe allowing him to edge in. Of course, HeRoMarinE does have the Viking control over the skies.
The Viking production being made on both sides at the same time. I love seeing the mirrors of these guys. You know, the game started out so chaotic and in fact has continued in such a chaotic fashion, but both of them realizing, oh gosh, you know what I need right now? Some Vikings. Oh gosh, you know what we need to do? Get upgrades. We keep seeing these things line up as these guys just have a great sense of where to bring the game next.
Yeah, a lot of symmetry between these players, both recognizing the correct decisions in these situations. And we can see HeRoMarinE wants to use that third command center. He's setting up his defensive siege tank line. But I think Kelazhur here, the way he's moving around the map, definitely looks like he feels a little bit more free in terms of map control. He's still got a slight worker lead, but with no third command center being replaced just yet, I do wonder, what is his plan? There we go, third command center placed on location. He is going to try and macro out of this. If he went any longer without dropping that, I would have started to think that he's just going to try and do some sort of big attack. But looks like he's happy to play the longer game.
Yeah, you know, that's definitely something to point out. Like, if you do not get these bases up, if you do not continually expand and try to suck up resources on the map, you'll run out. You won't be able to make any more units to attack your opponent with. But here we are. They're both getting those 3 bases going. Kelazhur deciding once again to move out on the map.
This is going to be a very scary push coming out. Of course, he's got a 20 army supply lead, but a nice little counterattack with the Hellions from HeRoMarinE is going to slow down that third command center. The barracks spotting everything. HeRoMarinE realizes what he's up against. Kelazhur scans ahead and sees the tank layout as well. And now it is all about trying to solve this position. Vikings out, a Thor on the ground to try and give some semblance of air superiority. But the Viking advantage is there for HeRoMarinE. He's coming forward. Good pullback by Kelazhur, but no, he turns around. He's going to lose a Viking, almost loses a second one too.
A little bit of a mistake there. That air support is so critical in these siege tank battles. The siege tanks can shoot so far that they can't even see how far they can shoot, so the Vikings can spot for them. So having that advantage is huge here for HeRoMarinE. As Kelazhur comes in and attacks, he lands these Vikings into battle mode, helping to kill off the siege tanks.
Wow, impressive defense here from HeRoMarinE. Turns that supply count upside down. The Liberator slowed down the third command center at the same time, so Kelazhur feeling even more pressured to engage here. HeRoMarinE realizes he's got the unit advantage. He's just going to push forward. The Viking land from Kelazhur will not be enough. He's got to back on out of there and back it on the natural. Locked down by the Liberator.
Yeah, it's some great defense here from HeRoMarinE. Great scouting as well. I definitely look at that game and find that the turning point, I think, was when HeRoMarinE spotted Kelazhur's move out. They were both trying to attack each other at the same time. And when HeRoMarinE saw that, he said, you know what? I can go for a much more powerful attack than you.
Yeah, it's always an uncomfortable position if you're both there on the map on opposite sides. But once he had that information, I mean, he capitalized on it so well, didn't he? He just dove right in between the two bases, getting not only both the mineral lines of workers, but the command center as well. A very decisive move from our young Italian representative. Kelazhur, though, looking very good in the early stages of that game. Unfortunately, did get a little bit over-eager with that early Cyclone push. And the counterattack, I mean, that really put HeRoMarinE back in the game.
You know what? His early game play really was magnificent, right? He was controlling his Reapers. He was running them around, not letting them get hit, while at the same time defending against a counterattack from his opponent. So when I see moves like that, I still feel like Kelazhur can take this series down despite the 0-1 map deficit.
That's Kelazhur's TVT in a nutshell. A master of the early game. Very aggressive and very good at controlling the pace. But in the past has sometimes had issues with faltering in the later stages or having them turn upside down. And we've seen this in games against far more accomplished Terran players. HeRoMarinE does manage to turn that one upside down, but that is probably the most aggressive and wild map that we'll be seeing. And as we head into larger maps that allow these players to play more drawn-out games, I am very fascinated to see what both of them are going to bring.
All right, we'll see what our next map is in just a second. HeRoMaRiNE looking to go up to a 2-0 lead. If he can do that, man, I mean, you're just one map away, you get 3 tries. That's pretty good odds on moving on.
That's when you start just proxying factories and stuff. That's where you don't mind taking as many risks as you like. So it's definitely something he would love here going into this. And it is going to be more Terran versus Terran action. Of course, we did happen to see a lot of Cyclones into mech from both players in game number 1. Let's see if they stick with it. Game number 2.
Okay, Black-Pink will be our map. In the bottom left, our blue Terran losing game number 1. It's Kelazhur.
And up here in the top right-hand side, representing Italy, it is HeRoMaRiNE. Great turnaround there in game number 1. He's got to have a bit of a boost to his confidence here. And interestingly enough, we are seeing the earlier gas out of Kelazhur. He's going to be going for that gas first opening. Meanwhile, it's a barracks gas for HeRoMaRiNE. So HeRoMaRiNE looking for a very standard expand build, but you know, with quite a late factory. So using the defensive capabilities on this map, might just go for a fast bunker or something like that, put a few Marines in it. Could even be a third command center transition, as we have seen that gain a little bit of popularity in this matchup in recent months.
I gotta say, I really do like as well the earliness of this scout from HeRoMaRiNE. If you're trying to go for something like a quick command center, then you really do need to scout.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're going for this quick command center, you just won't be able to defend things. Like, for instance, if your opponent builds his infrastructure on your side of the map, if he makes his barracks over there, suddenly his units are in your base before you know it. You're trying to play an economic game, and you can just die. But he scouts quickly here, and everything will be fine as he sees.
Yeah, in a game with limited vision like this, there's always that decision on how you can zone out those risks and how you can try to limit the things that can take you out of a game. Of course, watching from Diego's view here is a very fast player, exceptionally active with his units, and that really has always been his specialty. Of course, we just saw him placing a supply depot to block off the Reaper jump-in point. So Reapers actually can't jump up and down there. It looks like they should be able to, but they can't. And HeRoMaRiNE's already done the same thing on his side of the map with his first depot. So a nice thing the high-level Terran players are doing on this map. And that's going to just limit the attack avenues to that one narrow choke point at the natural.
Ooh, but what is this SCV doing here?
Proxy Lib? Or Proxy Banshee? What do we think? Oh, man. It's going to be Hellions, I think, to start out from Kelazhur, because he doesn't really have a lot of gas. Put him on the defense with that, and then just Proxy Starport. I mean, that's going to be beautiful. This is a very aggressive maneuver. And, you know, in the short term, it doesn't really have any drawbacks. But what you've got to remember is when that wants to fly home, you want to be building medevacs. It is just a big pain. It takes so long to fly home from there. It sometimes gets sniped on the way home, but it's a big gamble, and it allows you to get in your opponent's face very early on.
It really does. You know, when he flies in there with a Liberator, let's say, you're not going to be ready for it. You know, when you play this game, you know, good 8 hours a day praxing as a pro gamer, you get very used to the standard things. You know when the Liberator can get there. You're watching for something like that. You're watching for these aggressive moves. But when it's so close to your own base, suddenly it pops in. You weren't looking for it. You were doing something else at the time. And before you know it, you've taken a lot of damage.
Yeah, those are the games that can leave you scratching your head until you open up the replay and realize, oh, he built it on my side of the map. Got that proxy location there. And the Reaper does go scouting, but doesn't check in the corner for it. A big mistake, as Kelazhur, I think, proxied it in the most common location, but HeRoMaRiNE just not on top of that scouting right now.
And Kelazhur chasing this Reaper right now. It looks like he should be able to kill it without any problem. So the cleanup crew stops any possible scouting, and here goes the Liberator.
There's so little anti-air. There's only these Marines and Cyclones at the front. The empty main base is completely bare, and that Liberator is going to waste so much mining time. The Cyclone quickly goes back for their Hellions, and the Reapers dive in. Those Marines are toast.
Kelazhur with such a strong, aggressive play here, pushing in, knowing that units had to go back to deal with the Liberator, dealing tons of damage. Look at this, 7 SCVs falling, everything else having to run away. He's barely being able to mine at this point.
Wow, the damage just keeps on piling up. The Cyclone takes so long to damage that Liberator. The Liberator looks like it might even just barely escape out of there. That Cyclone is mad right now. HeRoMaRiNE taking massive losses in this early game.
The fact that the Liberator got out, and now Another Liberator flying into that main base. This is a huge moment for Kelazhur.
Wow, the second Liberator. It is so rare for a player to commit to that second Lib, but here he goes and getting even more damage. HeRoMarine's SCV is just sitting idle. I mean, he's reacting as well as he possibly could, but it's almost a checkmate position at this point. More Hellions and Cyclones coming across the map. The numbers are way in the Brazilian player's favor.
Yeah, he is in a great spot. And, you know, even that second Liberator, it only killed one SCV, but just the fact that he has to pull everything else, that he's not making money, is gigantic. Now the Liberator joining up with the rest of the army, coming up and sieging right on this ramp. A stim comes out here from HeRoMaRINE. Can he break through the rest of the army? It doesn't look like it, and GG is called. Kelazhur tying up the series with a quick game number 2.
Well, that's a Kelazhur build if I've ever seen one. Beautiful timing and execution from the Brazilian player. And against that 2 barracks build order from HeRoMaRINE, I mean, HeRoMaRINE's build great against so many things. He can follow that up with a fast stim, swap into medevacs, get out on the map and really control the flow of the mid game. But at that moment, at that timing, when that Liberator came in and the Hellions hit the front, it was just unstoppable. HeRoMaRINE did not have the right units in the right spots.
Well, this is the great thing about the aggressive plays of Kelazhur, right? He's controlling the map with all of his early units, so it's hard to scout him. You don't really know what's happening, so you have your units out front. What happens suddenly? A Liberator in your main base. You have to send some units to deal with it, and he knows that. So as soon as his Liberator's in your main base, he hits your front knowing you've pulled units from there. Just a beautiful tactical aggression here from Kelazhur. Once again showing us that his early game in Terran versus Terran is very strong.
Yeah, he's a wild player. He's always had that aggressive flair. He's the one guy you never simply put in a box and say, this is his 3 build orders or his 3 strategies. For him, there's always a new one up his sleeve, a new trick. And it's the fact that really, I mean, last year, he came into his own because he added the strong, solid plays behind the tricky ones. It's because he had the depth of play. HeRoMaRINE on the other side of things, a player who does have some variety. He does have some depth, but definitely does not have that crazy aggressive flair of Kelazhur. He wants to make it to the mid game. He wants to go up to 3 bases because HeRoMaRINE is a mechanical beast. In the standard games, in the mid to late game, I think he is the favored player. The question is, can he get there?
Well, our next map is going to be Eastwatch, our biggest map in this tournament. So this would be the place to beat the aggressive player who is in the top right, our blue Terran from Brazil. It's Kelazhur.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, in the red, representing Italy, it is HeRoMaRINE. And Kelazhur, aggressive. I think we described him as a few times, didn't we, Dan?
I think we might have brought it up, and so this is kind of what we were talking about before and why we saw the quick scout previously in that last game from HeRoMaRINE is because if you do not scout this and you are not ready for this, you can just die. He is going to be going for 2 barracks producing Reapers, which can jump up this ledge, which you cannot wall off with just 1 or 2 buildings. It takes quite a few. And he's just going to try to overwhelm him. He's going to try to control these units in such a way that they aren't getting hit very much. And this ends games quite quickly.
Oh, yeah. The 2 racks proxy Reaper, it can just take a game. Now, HeRoMaRINE, though, has opened up double gas. So even though he didn't scout this game, he's going to have the ability to build a Cyclone exceptionally early. Now, of course, the big question is, does HeRoMaRINE send the Reaper out? He's blind right now. HeRoMaRINE's saying, you know what? I'm going up the tech tree really fast. I'm building lots of units. This is a generically quite safe build.
Yeah.
But if this Reaper goes out, gets caught by the Reapers, or is too far away, then he may just take too much damage.
Well, you know what? In game 1, he made 2 Reapers. Let's see if he starts a second one. He does. This is a crucial moment. And in fact, he sets the Reaper up where he would expect this rush to come in. But there's going to be a period of time here where there's 3 Reapers, against one or two Reapers. So here we go.
Yep.
Jumping up with 2 immediately. He throws down the grenade. A great grenade to start off from HeRoMaRiNE.
Yep, already pulling 5 or 6 SCVs in front. One SCV does fall here. Oh, Kelazhur just diving forward with the focus fire, but great micro from HeRoMaRiNE. It is a trade-off, one Reaper for another, but a Hellion is now out, and another Reaper goes down.
This defense from HeRoMaRiNE is already awesome. He's killed off 2 Hellions. If you do this double barracks proximity build, you can't lose your first 2 Reapers.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
It all relies on those early Reapers, and I mean, HeRoMaRiNE's setup was perfect. Doing the double gas build, leaving the Reaper at home, having the second Reaper, and not just that, but the quick micro as well. He was trying to pull his Reaper away to evade the focus fire against a lesser Terran. Kelazhur gets in, snipes the Reaper, gets out, comes back in with 4 or 5 Reapers, but now only 3 Reapers, and they're outgunned and outmatched by these Hellions.
He's in a lot of trouble, but you know what? He's built his factory near HeRoMaRiNE as well, so he's making his own Cyclone to try to help out. But with this advantage on the high ground, you know, having that ramp, building a Banshee right now, it's hard to imagine Kelazhur breaking through here.
You know, I love HeRoMaRiNE's decision-making, saying, I'm going to go Banshee and Cloak, and that's sort of his checkmate move. He says, look, I don't need to move out to pressure you because I've got Cloak and Banshees on the way, and after your opening, you are going to have a nightmare dealing with that. I know you can't deal with that. And so instead, Kelazhur has to push in. HeRoMaRiNE locked on the barracks. His Cyclone not fighting. It goes down for free. A massive loss to start off this defense for HeRoMaRiNE.
What a huge move here by Kelazhur, and a mistake by HeRoMaRiNE. Coming in right now, that Cyclone dealing so much damage so quickly. A great grenade goes down, bouncing these SCVs up. Tons of damage being dealt.
Oh, the Banshee does have to return home. It is going to defend this push, but not before 10 SCVs go down. HeRoMaRiNE was not expecting that second wave of aggression there. He was caught completely off guard. His command center is even exceptionally low. If that goes down, that's where things get really, really bad. He cannot afford to lose that command center. The Cyclones and Reapers closing in right now.
Oh man, a Banshee comes out though that will be able to deal with this Cyclone, and he deals a ton of damage to the command center, but does not kill it. This makes me really a bit worried here for Kelazhur, putting out that much damage and getting nothing from it.
He does have 26 workers to just 14 right now. His command center is starting at his natural, but he doesn't have anything there to detect this Banshee. If that Banshee goes down to the natural, that has to be canceled 100%.
Well, it looks like he's going to fly near this missile turret, which can see it even while it's cloaked. The Viking helping to push away this Banshee, and a nice scan, realizing that it's low enough on health that he can kill it off, and the defense from Kelazhur, it's awesome.
If he can get that natural established with a missile turret, which he's going for... Oh, no, he's not actually going for it right now. Just going to wait for another scan, I believe. As long as he has another scan ready and already getting damage. Wow. This Banshee is in the danger zone right now. 2 Vikings and a Cyclone can take that out very quickly.
Well, he's trying to make him whiff a scan here. If you scan and the Banshee gets away, that's so painful, but it looks like the scan will be true. He delays the command center a bit more, but now he's lost both Banshees without really doing that much damage.
And this is where the real sting of the proxy build comes, when you've got to float those buildings home and you say, hey, half my infrastructure is going to take a minute just to get home before I can use it again. That's always a pain. Kelazhur does, of course, have the engineering bay behind it. He's got the natural expansion coming down not too far behind, and he does still have a worker lead. So I'd say really the only advantage here for HeRoMaRiNE is that Banshee tech, and that is why he's continuing to build Banshees. He says, look, there's a chance I can get an advantage with that. If I keep building command centers and SCVs behind this, and I keep baiting out scans and just picking off a few workers with each Banshee, then maybe I can get myself a lead. But I think Kelazhur's defense has been pretty good so far.
Yeah, he's done a good job. He's making the missile turrets. Look at this. He spreads out his units and sends them across, scouting for things like this coming in. It seems as if he didn't notice that the Banshee was there.
Not sure if he was watching.
Yeah, he was probably looking somewhere else in his base. You know, StarCraft is such a game of attention. Where do you look? Where do you spend everything? But takes that down rather quickly, and you know, Kelazhur, I gotta say I'm impressed. It really looked like everything was going to be held so easily by HeRoMaRiNE, but the second he makes a mistake anywhere, Kelazhur is all over him.
Absolutely, and that's Kelazhur's skill. He's a master of the multiple proxy builds, especially against Protoss players back in 2016. He pioneered quite a few of those barracks into starport proxies. He's going to come in here with a couple of Vikings, but I think that's a little bit of a crazy move if he does go in after the Cyclone's already in position.
Yeah, I think it is, but
wait,
look
this
at
is the
this.
same two-pronged assault from the previous game, but yeah, I think with that scan, you've got to back off. If you commit into that, you are a madman.
Yeah, with the bunker there, with the siege tank in siege mode, you are just never going to break through there with such a small army like 4 Cyclones.
Oh, these Cyclones coming up. Looks like he wants to just take the sympathy prize of the depot. Why not? Use the Vikings to spot the high ground, the Cyclones and the Hellions to snipe it from the low. And now it's starting to stabilize. And once again, looks like we do have a mech game on our hands from Kelazhur. HeRoMaRINE, and he's only on 1 factory still. He's building siege tanks. He's got a fair number of Marines, but with no like stim or anything on the way, it looks like he'll probably be adding more factories soon enough.
Yeah, we'll see about that. He still has the option to go into a Marine-based game here, and, you know, with the siege tanks, that can help out, but we don't see even a medevac at this point, so there's not a lot of mobility here for HeRoMaRINE. The one thing that he could try to pull off is a big siege tank-based attack with the Marines trying to protect it, but I'm not sure if that's really going to be his plan here.
He's got 5 Vikings out right now and 2 more on the way. And interesting enough, it's Kelazhur that's actually building Liberators right now. So I think Kelazhur planning to use the air advantage to do some sort of push. Little does he know, HeRoMaRINE actually has a massive air advantage. He's the one who's actually controlling the skies right now. So here we go. It's that tank push you were talking about, Dan. Looking very frightening, already having 4 siege tanks out.
Well, this is definitely something that can catch your opponent off guard. If they're making a lot of Cyclones, Cyclones are great, but siege tanks, if they have some sort of buffering like these Marines, can kill them, especially when you have that air dominance, which currently he does have.
And that Raven's been building up energy, so don't count out the auto turrets. There's going to be 3 of them in this upcoming battle, and the amount of damage they can tank as well as the damage they can push out is incredible. Of course, it does have reduced cast range, so HeRoMaRINE is going to have to be very quick on the gun, pulling that out. Here we go, the push coming forward right now. Liberators are trying to move out here, and the Liberators sieging up. The Vikings are on the ground for HeRoMaRINE.
Oh man, just disabling some of these units as he tries to push out. But with that Liberator sieged up, there was not much of a chance here. And killing off this army gives Kelazhur a gigantic lead once again.
Yeah, I mean, HeRoMaRINE there, he decided, let's just use the Vikings on the ground and not even try to fight the air. It was an interesting gamble, but it didn't pay off, and it's always hard in these games because both players are on a lower economy. They don't have as much information. They don't have as many scans to burn on just kind of figuring out where your opponent's at. And now Kelazhur says, oh, awesome. I've got a 3rd command center finished. I've got Blue Flame on the way. I think the only thing he's missing really is the double armory.
You know, actually, he made them, but he hasn't upgraded quite yet. I think he's just trying to get the units out that he needs to survive at the moment. But, you know, I'm not really digging where HeRoMaRINE is at. He's going into just standard Marine-based play. He's going to make a lot of infantry units to go with his siege tanks. But he doesn't really have any way to get out on the map right now. Control of this game is Kelazhur's.
Never something you want to see as the bio player. And you're always the one who wants to use your mobility to your advantage, but if you can't get out on that map, there's basically no hope for you making plays anytime soon. HeRoMaRINE just going to have to macro his way out of this one. He's going to have to harvest a lot of resources, try and expand outwards, having some good defense of the pressure, and then hopefully in the middle stages try and close this supply gap and find some good maneuvers to catch up with that massive army of Kelazhur's.
Kelazhur just kind of slow and steady right now. He's going to be landing his 3rd base. He's kind of patrolling, trying to figure out when is HeRoMaRINE going to make his move, because as you said, Pig, if you're making Marines, you are the aggressor. You are the one that's trying to look for damage, and Kelazhur does not want to be caught here with his pants down.
Only a very small amount of bio supporting this, so HeRoMaRINE still very focused on the air superiority. This is a very, you know, frontal focused style of bio against the mech. It's like, hey, let's win the air battle, and then my siege tanks can take advantage of it. But with so little bio on the ground, I do worry about Blue Flame Hellions just jumping on top, frying the Marines, and then running away with that fight.
All right, he's moving up right now. Of course, Kelazhur knows he's on the way. He has a few tanks sieged up in decent positions here, bringing forward his Vikings. But that air control does still belong to HeRoMaRINE. He's got to be very careful about that.
Very nice counter liberated there from Kelazhur, doing some good damage in the main base. This puts a lot of pressure on HeRoMaRINE with these Cyclones on the ground as well as the Hellions with Blue Flame. Kelazhur trying to keep this siege tank line strong, is defending well so far, but the Liberators of HeRoMaRINE starting to come forward. The Vikings sniping down the air units of Kelazhur. Kelazhur suddenly under a massive amount of pressure.
The Liberator definitely being very worthwhile here as well. Kelazhur going into an actual Thor. Look at that. It pops out as the Vikings come into his main base. Whoa, great moment for it to come out as an anti-air against those Vikings, forcing them out of his base.
Yeah, that's got that massive anti-air range. He swapped it immediately to single target fire mode, so that Thor's going to be the equalizer with this air battle. But HeRoMaRINE trying to use this edge while he's got it coming forward to the Liberator. The Viking and the Thor do finally clear that up, and Kelazhur holding on well. He's once again doing damage in the main base. 20 kills on that Liberator. It has been the devastator of HeRoMaRINE's economy.
That is a huge amount of damage right there, and you can see how many workers he's missing. He's behind by a good 23 workers at the moment, trying to attack into this very fortified position with all these siege tanks dealing massive damage from so far away. He's unable to break through Kelazhur right now, so walking around, seeing if maybe there's another angle he can use.
Yeah, Kelazhur is quick to respond though. Siege tanks already coming down on this angle. These Liberators though taking advantage of the Thor not being there. Vikings will defend this, but the Marines gunning their way forward. HeRoMaRINE taking advantage of a slight gap in the defense and does force this third base to lift.
Very strong move, even bringing his Vikings up into the sky, seeing if he can pick off the command center. I'm not sure if that'll be possible, but look at that Kelazhur with these Hellions coming down to the third base and just roasting some more SCVs.
Yeah, Kelazhur just sliding these small numbers of units out to continue to do harassment damage. And I mean, harassment has turned into a massacre of the economy of HeRoMaRINE, losing so much control over his own establishment, his own production, unable to even produce constantly right now. We only see a few medevacs and SCVs trickling out. His economy is just trickled to a standstill. And now HeRoMaRINE, I mean, he's got one army on the map. He's similar in army supply, but that army has to do a lot.
Well, you know, when you get to kind of low supplies, you can definitely get a lot done with the Marine Marauder. But you have to kind of catch your opponent off guard. If Kelazhur gets out of position at all, that Marine Marauder base army we see right here on screen can deal a huge amount of damage very, very quickly.
Just going to be trying to get rid of that scouting barracks, but I mean, that just gives Kelazhur the safety, the comfort to say, that's fine, okay, your army's up there, let's send these Hellions in. Hellions are going to hit the south, and at the same time, he's going to run those Hellions in towards the natural. So I think it's going to be a two-pronged Hellion assault here, once again going to ravage this gold mineral line.
Yeah, look at that. A lot of workers going to end up falling. Quite a few mules down there, trying to mine as much as they can, but he will kill them and get out for free.
Oh, and here comes the second prong. These Hellions, even though they're heavily bruised, they're still alive, and more SCVs falling. HeRoMaRINE looking like he's going to drop below 20 workers here. Those really are the last vestiges of his economy. Down to just 16 workers against 59. Kelazhur has 2-2 upgrades in the way. He has a gigantic force. HeRoMaRINE is desperate to find some damage.
Yeah, there is almost no chance left here for HeRoMaRINE. In fact, his Vikings going on a one-way journey right here, being caught as they try to sneak in. The last move here of HeRoMaRINE, trying to pick up a victory with a massive drop into the main base of Kelazhur. Will he be able to get it done?
I mean, the Liberator siege is up. It does get sniped down. There's just so many Hellions working their way back up here. Siege tanks, Vikings taking down all the medevacs. And there we go. The dropping of their Hellbats on top of the bio forces those units back. SCVs and siege tanks do defend the third. That's it. Kelazhur takes the 2-1 lead in this series.
Kelazhur just shows how dangerous he is in the early game. HeRoMaRINE was countering his play so well. He stopped the initial Reapers. When you lose 2 Reapers, it's almost as if the game is over when you built your barracks on the other side of the map. But no, Kelazhur, he makes a factory, he gets a Cyclone out, and then distracts HeRoMaRINE with his flying barracks. HeRoMaRINE's attacking that, and Kelazhur jumped all over him. What a moment. Kelazhur finding that one weakness, that one tiny mistake of HeRoMaRINE that helps him to come back into this game.
Capitalizing on weaknesses, Brazil here. We're going to have to find out how the rest of this series goes in just a moment. We'll be right back.